Good evening, folks, and welcome to the live stream. I hope you're all very well this evening. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Hello to Luke, who is in North Carolina. Fantastic. Apologies, everyone. I ate something before and it went down the wrong way before I came on the live stream. So I'm choking up a little bit on it. Excuse me. Hopefully I don't cough too much during the live stream. So I hope you're all very well. Masood says, another week of madness. Yes, another week of madness. Every week is a week of madness. It just gets worse and worse, it seems. So what we're going to cover tonight, of course, I'm just going to touch on the attempt by Donald Trump to sue the BBC. I don't think it's actually going to work, and I'll explain why in just a moment. A U-turn on the WASPy women, Liverpool's opinion of Nigel Farage, the two-child benefit cap, jobs, renters, and a whole load of other a whole lot of other stuff for the show for tonight. So I want to say thanks to everyone who coming on. Remember to smash the like button, greatly appreciated. And I may have some special guests coming up on the live stream later on, not today, but later on in the month or maybe next month. Someone you've probably seen on TV. I'm not going to go any further than that, and it hasn't been confirmed, but hopefully he will be interested in coming on. But I'll keep you posted on that if it happens. So I hope you're all very well. Thanks to the moderators for doing a wonderful job before we jump in. So our first story, of course, is about Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump, it seems, is going to sue the BBC for libel or slander. But the problem is, the BBC didn't lie about Donald Trump. They misrepresented him. Now, I don't know if Donald Trump can sue over this. It seems that the legal experts are saying that he can't, or he doesn't really have a case. But Tories, on the other hand, believe that the BBC need to grovel to Donald Trump. So I want to show you two videos. One probably more interesting than the other, but the first one here is the Shadow Culture Secretary calling for the BBC to grovel to Donald Trump. This is ridiculous.
If you look at the complaint he's got, the TV programme, the Panorama programme, he probably has legitimate claims to say, look, this was wrong, and definitely requires and demands an apology. So I would advise the BBC to grovel here. They need to make sure that they communicate very clearly that they got this wrong and that they apologise. And then I think probably we need to all appeal to...
Look, I think if the BBC are to apologise, they apologise to the public for misleading the public, because they did mislead them. They took Donald Trump's speech, they edited out the main part of it, they stuck two parts together to amplify, it seems. Whoever was doing the editing should apologise, maybe should be fired. But it's not just this that caused the General Secretary, the Director General, of the BBC to resign. A number of issues fed into this. The Donald Trump thing was one of them.
Donald Trump to make it clear that it's licence payers, it's taxpayers that would suffer then because of the bad and poor decisions made by a bunch of left-wing journalists and anti-Trump journalists, and make it clear that they should be the ones held to account, and please don't penalise the rest of the British public. And Donald Trump does like the UK. He likes Britons, and I hope that expression would work. So hopefully Keir Starmer can do some calling here as well.
That's interesting. So you think
so the Prime Minister should apologise on behalf of the BBC to Donald Trump. The same Donald Trump who has no problem lying to his own people, no problem lying to the world, lying to the media. There's no problem with Donald Trump telling lies, but if the BBC misrepresented him, then the Prime Minister has to apologise on behalf of the BBC. Ridiculous. Brad, thank you so much for that super chat. When Trump announced that he was going to sue the BBC, GB News had to go off air while there were other staff were engaged in a full-on something fest. Donald Trump has come out and said that he supports GB News. So, GB News tried to present itself as unbiased. Donald Trump says, I support GB News. And GB News will still say, yeah, we're unbiased. We're impartial. Right. Thanks so much, Brad. Yeah, that's probably what went on. I don't want to see it. I hope you don't have footage of it. Please don't share it in the chat. Because, we all know about Darren Grimes. And maybe that was one of the reasons why he was sacked from GB News.
Prime Minister should give Donald Trump a ring and essentially sort of use the fact that he does like this country. He obviously has a soft spot for the king.
Sorry, why do we give a crap about Donald Trump? Honestly, we've heard nothing for the last few days apart from, oh, we need to apologise to Donald Trump. The BBC need to apologise to Donald Trump. The Prime Minister needs to apologise to Donald. Why? Why is Donald Trump so important? Donald Trump is not some sort of international statesman who's respected by the world. He's not even respected by people within his own party. Why should anyone give a crap about Donald Trump? Does he deserve respect? No. Respect is something that's earned. And, excuse me, Donald Trump has not earned anyone's respect, especially the respect of the BBC.
To appeal to him not to sue the BBC.
I think that's part of the solution, because what I don't want to happen here is for the licence payers to suffer because of bad decisions made by the News and Current Affairs team at the BBC. And this is key here. All the talk about the BBC, the issues and the concerns are all around impartiality with news and current affairs. The BBC does so many other things incredibly well, from sport to national events to traitors, Strictly, so many things, local radio, things that we all admire. But the news and...
Donald Trump will have forgotten this within 24 hours. Maybe not 24 hours, 48 hours. Yeah, by the end of the week, we won't be talking about this. I can guarantee you we'll be talking about something else. And I have another story just right after this, which in a sense is more important than what Donald Trump is complaining about or what the BBC has done to Donald Trump.
Current affairs have got real problems, and in particular have not been upholding their own duty on impartiality. And I think that needs explaining to Donald Trump.
Do you trust the BBC?
On news and current affairs, I've had serious concerns about bias for many years, as I think have most people.
Yes, and I have serious issues about bias, how the BBC has been biased towards the Conservative Party, how the BBC has been biased towards not being critical towards Brexit. I remember a video I did some time ago where there was a woman who worked in a fish market or something like that, and she had talked about the problems of Brexit. And this part, when she mentioned the word Brexit, it was edited out of the video. Now, I don't know if it was edited because of time constraints or whether it was a political decision to remove Brexit from the discussion. But she complained about it, and she eventually was able to get the full clip, and the full clip was presented online. Now, I don't know if the BBC apologised for that, but that could be constrained as, or could be viewed as bias. I don't know. Was it a mistake, an honest mistake, or was there a narrative there not to present Brexit in a bad light? Now, they've changed since then.
People with right or centre-right views in this country, many people who are Jewish or are pro-Israel, many Americans who are pro-Donald Trump. There's many sectors of the British population.
They invited on Newsnight people like Gorka. Remember that Gorka guy? They invited on people who represent Republicans abroad, fans of Donald Trump. They invite on Nigel Farage, who's a huge fan of Donald Trump. They invite on Republican representatives, sitting Congress people within the Republican Party on Newsnight, on the BBC. How do they not present both sides? Unfortunately, I don't think they're presenting both sides the right way, but they present both sides.
By the way, who've had concerns about bias in the BBC for a long period of time. And
the Tories, when they complain about bias in the BBC, is, of course, bias against the Conservatives. But there's no evidence to that. When did they ever present any evidence that there's bias against the Conservative Party or bias against right-wing views? Is it because they don't believe right-wing views are getting enough airtime? We need to have more people from the IEA on telling people how the NHS needs to be sold off. We need more people from Policy Exchange talking about how more disabled people need to be kicked off support, off benefits or entitlements. Do we need more of that? Is that what he's suggesting? Johnson must be livid with who appointed Davey. Well said, Brad. Yes, wait till he finds out. You know, this left-wing bias. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, let's move on to this other story. So Donald Trump is extremely upset. We need politicians, the BBC need to grovel to Donald Trump. But here's another story with another problem involving Donald Trump.
A breaking news exclusive now coming into the Situation Room. Watch this. The United Kingdom is suspending, listen to this, suspending some of its intelligence sharing with the U.S. because of the Trump administration's strikes against alleged drug boats in the Caribbean.
We are joined now by senior White House reporter Kevin Liptak and...
Okay, so the UK is suspending intelligence briefings with the United States because it's breaking international law. And instead of focusing on this, which I think is really important, what is the media focusing on? Well, whether Boris Johnson, whether Donald Trump is going to sue the BBC, and whether the BBC and the Prime Minister should apologise to Donald Trump. Isn't this a bit more serious, a bit more important?
CNN national security correspondent Natasha Bertrand. Natasha, to you first with this exclusive reporting. I mean, this is a big deal. The UK is arguably the closest ally.
Really significant rupture here. Essentially, what we're learning is that the UK is no longer sharing intelligence with
and abetting a criminal organisation that is the Trump administration. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut off intelligence sharing to the US. Max is frozen. Is it back working again? Back. Back. Okay. Not sure what happened there. Apologies for that. So let me just refresh. So the United States is now a criminal organization and the UK doesn't want anything to do with it because it's breaking international law in a limited and specific way. We missed it. I'll go back and play the video again. Apologies.
A breaking news exclusive now coming into the Situation Room. Watch this. The United Kingdom is suspending, listen to this, suspending some of its intelligence sharing with the U.S. because of the Trump administration's strikes against alleged drug boats in the Caribbean.
We are joined now by senior White House reporter Kevin Liptak and CNN national security correspondent Natasha Bertrand. Natasha, to you first with this exclusive reporting. I mean, this is a big deal. The UK is arguably the closest ally to the United States when it comes to intelligence sharing. What else do we know?
Yeah, Pam, it's a really significant rupture here. Essentially, what we're learning is that the UK is no longer sharing intelligence with the US about these suspected drug trafficking vessels in the Caribbean because it does not want to be complicit in the US military's strikes on these drug vessels and believes fundamentally that the US military's use of force against these vessels violates international law.
There you have it. The British government believes that the US is engaging in breaches of international law. And of course, it doesn't want to be dragged in front of some sort of tribunal in the future to explain why were you providing intelligence to a rogue nation, the Trump nation.
According to multiple sources that we spoke to. Now, previously, the UK had been happy to help the United States locate and interdict vessels that were transiting the Caribbean that appeared to be trafficking drugs. But the key difference, of course, is that it was helping the Coast Guard intercept those vessels, arrest those on board, seize the drugs, and
as you're supposed to do. That's the normal approach. If you see a rogue vessel, you're supposed to stop it in the sea, arrest the individuals, bring the ship back to port, and then use it as evidence against the people who are smuggling drugs, if they're smuggling drugs. But what is the Trump administration doing? They're blowing them up in the sea. So they're not actually getting justice for whatever. They're not actually collecting evidence. They're destroying evidence. They're not interested in the evidence. They're not interested in arresting people, putting them behind bars. They're just interested in blowing up stuff, it seems. And that's, of course, a breach of international law. You don't get to just blow up people's boats. Because the problem here is that what if these are not boats carrying drugs? You don't know until you stop the boat and impound it and check what's on board. So you're killing people without any due process. When are people going to wake up and realize that the Trump administration is not interested in the First Amendment? They're not interested in due process. They're not interested in justice. They're not interested in free speech. They're not interested in the normal way of doing things.
and allowing these individuals to have some semblance of due process. But now the U.S., of course, has started striking these boats unilaterally with military force, killing everyone on board. The total now for number of people killed is around 76. And we're told that the UK is deeply uncomfortable with that, and they believe that it is pretty blatantly illegal. Now, it is unclear exactly how long this intelligence sharing suspension.
I have a question for the US military. Why are they breaking international law? Why are they following these orders? Aren't the soldiers supposed to refuse to carry out orders if they believe that they are in breach of international law? Because those soldiers could face a tribunal someday. Where are the Navy officers? Where are the top brass? Why are they not resisting Donald Trump? Why are they saying, no, we're not going to carry out these orders because they're in breach of international law? I'm not a legal expert, but I know you can't blow up boats in the sea unless a declaration of war has been issued, and there has been no declaration of war. There's no evidence that these are carrying troops to invade the United States. There's no justification for blowing up these boats. So the ones who are pulling the trigger are responsible. The ones who are telling them to pull the trigger are responsible. Remember, during World War II, those soldiers who are carrying out war crimes could not just say, well, I was following orders. I had to do what I was told. No, that didn't fly with the international courts, with the Nuremberg trials, trials, yes. It didn't fly there. They couldn't just say, oh, I was following orders. In the same way as these soldiers cannot say, we're just following orders. They are supposed to resist. They're supposed to uphold the Constitution, not uphold Donald Trump. The boats are carrying Epstein files. Well said, Peter. Yeah, there. Now we got to the crux of the problem. See, they need to stop carrying Epstein files across the sea. Why are they doing it by boat? I don't know, but they need to realize it's a dangerous game to be carrying all these files. We have a super chat also from Frankel Punny. Thank you so much for that. Will Trump respond for a tit for tat on a tit for tat basis, or will he nuke Doncaster? Maybe he'll probably find out where Nigel Farage is and then nuke right next door. That's probably what he'll do. Thanks for that. And Jimmy, welcome to Discord. And as I always be, or as I started once again, I'll be on the Discord server after the show if you're on Discord, so do check it out. After Nixon, Democrats' influence on the media faded drastically. So you're telling me the same how drug dealers have the Epstein files? What's under the rubble? The Epstein files. They do it to their own soldiers too, and civilians. That's true. Could they actually just sink them a little? A little. Oh my goodness.
And is going to last, but we're told that it has been going on for well over a month now, essentially since the U.S. began its bombing campaign, and it really underscores the continued questions surrounding the legality of this U.S. military campaign, which of
questions around the legality. It's completely illegal. There aren't questions of. It's like, is it illegal for me to steal my neighbor's car? There are questions around the legality of me stealing my neighbor's car. No, it's illegal. In the same way it's illegal to blow up these boats in the sea when a declaration of war has not been issued. If the US had declared war on wherever these boats are coming from, Venezuela, then you can say, well, we have a justification because we're defending the homeland or we're defending our territory. But there's no defense here. This is just carrying out strikes on these boats. You're supposed to carry out an investigation. You're supposed to impound these boats. That's what the Coast Guard is there for. What's the point in having a Coast Guard if you're just going to blow stuff out of the water?
Of course, the U.S. government, the Trump administration, has insisted is part of an armed conflict that it is waging against cartel members and criminal organizations. But much of the international community, as well as legal experts inside the US, do not see it that way.
I love the impartial reporting here. It's a breach of international law. That's what it is. Donald Trump should not be doing it. But then who's going to stop Donald Trump? If the soldiers are just going to carry out orders and say, look, I'm just carrying out orders, then who's going to stop Donald Trump from breaking international law? You know, the United States is the world's policeman. So who's going to watch the watchman? Who's going to stop the policeman? Nobody. And unfortunately, I think this is going to continue until Donald Trump finds a new target. Okay, guys, let's move on to our next story, which is, of course, a U-turn of sorts, it seems. So the government is considering giving compensation to WASPy women. So this was something that the SNP government in Scotland did, and the UK government had refused to go ahead with this, to go through with it. They said it was just too expensive. But now it seems that, a bit like the two-child benefit cap, they have had a bit of a rethink.
Our chief political correspondent, John Craig, joins me now. So it's not specifically clear what's prompted this, John, but good news for the WASPy women.
This is a massive U-turn by the government, another big one after the U-turn on welfare cuts and also on the winter fuel payments. Yet again, it will be seen by critics as a blunder, the wrong decision made by Liz Kendall when she was the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions until the latest reshuffle. She sat on the front bench alongside Mr McFadden, looking glum, miserable, as he basically said she'd got it wrong. Now, he said the reason for that was indeed new evidence. This is likely to affect something like 3 or 4 million women who were born in the 1950s. And it's been a whole great long process of legislation.
McFadden. Sorry, I was just reading Mike's comment.
Changes in the retirement age and so on. They began in the 90s. Then there was what were many.
No, I agree with Andrew there. It says, oh no, the government changed their mind. U-turn, how awful. Media news wankers. Kirsty, thank you so much. That's your budget. There's an election coming. Quick, let's look like we care about people. Yeah, I think this is. I think people within number 10 have realized, you know, the two-child benefit cap was a mistake. It's going to be gotten rid of. The winter fuel allowance issue was too much of a problem. Get rid of it. And then the WASPy women was a thorn in the side of the government. They thought that they would be able to quieten that anger. And of course they failed. And they realized, look, we're not actually succeeding with convincing people we're on their side. I said, look, I've said before, a U-turn is actually a positive thing if you learn from it. But you shouldn't have to U-turn. You should actually think of the policy before you implement it, or not having a policy if that's the case either. You need to think about, okay, what will be the impact of this policy or the lack of this policy? You know, when it comes to the two-child benefit cap, they've been told for so long that it would lift hundreds of thousands of children out of poverty. That should be enough of a reason. Yes, is it expensive? Well, not really expensive, about £3 billion. But you could find that somewhere else. You have to raise that money. You have to lift people out of poverty. There's no justification. You have to find the money somewhere to do that. You know, if you have to borrow it, if you have to scrape it from somewhere else, you have to do that. You have to lift children out of poverty. The Tories don't care about children. Reform don't care about the poor. But the Labour Party are supposed to be on the side of the most vulnerable in society, including the poor and those who have not protections, like people who are at the lower end of the pay grade. Those are the people that Labour are supposed to be on the side of. And since the beginning, they have been appearing to be on the other side. And now they're U-turning, which is a positive thing, but I don't know if it's going to win back the lost support that the support that they lost between the election and now.
I would say was a cost-cutting measure by David Cameron and George Osborne in the coalition government. Do you remember when Mr Osborne increased the retirement age for women? What happened as a result of that? A lot of these women who fought.
David says the benefit U-turn are down to rising unemployment. That's interesting. Thanks, David, for that. Unemployment numbers are up. So the idea of forcing more people, the U-turn, I would have thought that they would have doubled down on the cuts to benefits or the changes to benefits. But maybe they realize, actually, if we're tougher with PIP, it will result in fewer people going into work, and this is going to increase unemployment. So we need to facilitate more people into work by maybe doing some U-turns on benefits. I don't know if they've done a U-turn on PIP changes. Thanks, David. And do check out Indie Truck Davies' YouTube channel with the two Davies on YouTube. Mr. E, thank you so much for that as well. Round and round the circles, who's the teddy bears? Round and round in circles, who's the teddy bears? Yes. It is a little bit of a circle once again. Maybe they're hoping that they'll be able to turn around their fortunes here. Maybe this will appeal to more people, convince people that they're actually on their side. I don't know if it's going to work. You know, a week is a long time in politics. 3 years is a very long time. Of course, it's almost an infinity in politics. So maybe people will have forgotten about the first year of Keir Starmer's administration by the next election. Maybe that's the hope, that you can put the bad stuff behind them and start focusing on improving the situation for ordinary people. Brian, thank you so much for that super chat once again. Andrew Windsor is reportedly the favourite to become the next BBC head. He's available and he has a track record of getting on with sex offenders. He seems to be overqualified. I think he's overqualified, Brad, but yeah, thanks for that scoop. Who is it? Jimmy Savile. I wonder, I think it was Prince Charles. When Charles was Prince, he had a good relationship with Jimmy Savile. Jesus, when you even listen to Jimmy Savile speak, I don't know if you guys had saw the documentary from last year, but it's bone chilling. And the signs were all there. And it seems like people decided not to look at the signs, not to listen to what he was actually saying. Thanks, Brad. Anyway, moving on.
Formed their own campaign to fight this, said that they were cheated out of a large part of their pensions. Now, Mr. McFadden said in his statement to the House, it talks about how many of these women born in the 1950s to plan for their retirement. And he talked about the 1995 Pensions Act that increased the state pension age for women to 60 to 65. Then that 2011 Pensions Act, the coalition, which rise to 66 for men and women. So this has been a long saga. Now, it's important to point out Mr. McFadden did not give a guarantee that these women are suddenly going to get their money, but what they are going to do is look at this again. Now, the Ombudsman made a report, then that was published in March last year, and it was in December that Liz Kendall gave the response, said it was all too expensive, they couldn't agree to what the Ombudsman was demanding and what the campaigners were calling for. But what he said was, since December last year, as part of the legal proceedings challenging the government's decision, he said evidence has been cited about research findings from a 2007 report, a DWP, that's Department of Work and Pensions, evaluation of the effectiveness of automatic pension forecast letters. Dreadful.
Oh, okay. We found a report down the back of the sofa. We decided we actually better U-turn on this. So, you know, if we're being very generous, the government decided actually it was a wrong approach before we found new evidence and we're going to support that. Or maybe the evidence was discovered after a lot of searching for that evidence and they found, hey, let's use this to issue a U-turn. Either way, it's positive news for the WASPy women. Now, the response, of course, from the Conservatives and Reform is, how are you going to pay for it? You know, when it comes to other things, they don't care about the cost, but when it comes to something like this, they are asking how much is it going to cost and how are you going to pay for it. There was a comment there I wanted to read. Yeah, so Bill Silver says the first year, excuse me, the first year of Starmer's premiership should be his last, or Labour are fucked. I don't see Keir Starmer lasting very long. I think the May elections would be make or break. So if the May elections go really, really badly, I think there'll be a call for him to go, and the knives will be out. I think we'll understand it better in the run up to that. It's not going to be a case of suddenly there's a call for a new leader. I think we're going to hear rumblings about a new leader in the run up to the May elections, and it depends on how the results come in. So if there's a massive loss for Labour in Scotland and in Wales and the local elections, I think there will be real pressure on him to go, and they'll be probably lining somebody up to replace him. If the election results are reasonably positive for Labour, he'll hold on, and if the result is really good for Labour, which I don't think is going to happen, he will of course be safe. But there isn't really anyone at the moment to take over. That's the problem. I think Morgan McSweeney has made sure that any real threats are at bay, at least for the moment. Or, who is going to take over? Maybe West Streeting. Angela Rayner is pretty much gone, at least for now. She may make a return. But Andy Burnham, as I said before, Andy Burnham would be a real threat. But the problem is that there are too many obstacles in the way of Andy Burnham. I think Andy Burnham did pretty well at the conference, but he could have done much better. And it seems that the party sort of rallied around the Prime Minister, the Parliamentary Party, and kept Andy Burnham at bay. Andy Burnham is now a member of the Parliamentary Party, so he's someone on the outside trying to break in. And at the moment, he doesn't seem to be making much progress there. That could change next May. Maybe might get an apology or £1 billion. Mr. E. I'm not sure I understand. Maybe. West Streeting is next up. Yeah. Morgan McWeener. Whoever becomes the next Labour leader, Blue Labour, had better fucking have no say with his. Yes, I agree 100% there. Blue Labour should be nowhere near the levers of power. They have done a huge amount of damage, and they're still banging on for the red wall to be listened to and Brexit to be implemented. Morgan McSweeney Todd. Andy Burnham, Andrew Windsor sporting Mancunian accent. Starmer will be reluctant to leave the country, especially on official business. That's when palace coups occur. Yeah, I think wasn't it happening with Boris Johnson? Maybe it wasn't really. Was Boris Johnson? What was happening with Boris Johnson? So much has happened. It's hard to keep track of it all. Blue Labour are all the left. That's all that's left in the party. They purged the left wing. In a sense, that's true. Yes. Anyway, let's take a short comedy moment, and we'll be back in just a jiffy with more serious stuff. So I hope you enjoy this from a new comedy example, new comedy guy.
Hello, mate.
So how health is wealth people think people see them. You know these people. You probably know them yourself, or maybe you're one of them yourself.
Hello, mate. Yeah, just giving you a ring. I just saw that meal you posted. Yeah. 60 grams of protein, yeah? Nice, man. Nice. Yeah, of course I read the macronutrients breakdown. Of course I did, man. I couldn't wait to read it. Yeah. I was just saying to Matt, we like that bit where you like sort of belittling people that eat fast food. Yeah, saying they're filling their body with toxic poison. And yeah, man, that was sick. Yeah, you should absolutely belittle people for their dietary choices. Because you're healthy now. I mean, you were a drug addict for 10 years, but, and you did eat a lot of McDonald's and stuff yourself, but because you're at a different point now, you should absolutely belittle people who are at where you were at. Yeah. No, that's the way to do it. Nah, fuck compassion. Yeah. Listen, anyway, mate, we're going for a meal later, and I've had a look at the menu, and they do salads and stuff, and they've got sparkling water. Yeah, obviously me and the boys will probably just be having like the meat, chips and beers and that, but we'd love you to come and tell us how bad it is for us while we consume it. Yeah. No, we don't find it patronising at all. No, we really appreciate your insight that you've gained after 3 months of a health kick. Yeah. Anyway, mate, good luck with the page, and I hope you can join us tonight, all right? Cheers, mate. Bye.
It's so true. So let's move on. This is interesting. Now, I don't know if this is a legitimate criticism I have, but this is a guy from a company or an organization called JL Partners, a polling company, and they believe that immigration or deportation is the most important issue at the moment. Have a listen.
Isn't it funny how just a couple of months ago even the notion of mass deportations may have been a bit out there, a bit right-wing, and yet your poll shows it's now becoming a mainstream view.
Totally. Yeah, and that is my view on this. This is now this view of deportations of not just illegal migrants who have come very recently, not just
illegal migrants. There's a bit of a red flag for me. You know, I wish we could do this in real life. We could just stop people when they say stupid bullshit and say, wait a minute, illegal migrants, do you not mean asylum seekers? Because illegal migrants are the ones who have overstayed their visa, although we don't really use that term. But anyway, let's continue.
Illegal migrants who've committed crime in the UK, but all illegal migrants being deported is now the mainstream view in British politics. It is the view of Conservative voters. It is the view of Labour voters. It's even the view of Lib Dem voters. Out there, we now have a consensus really in Britain that if you're here illegally, you're breaking the law.
Okay, if somebody has broken the law, then shouldn't they be in jail? Like you keep saying they're in the country illegally. Well, then if they're in the country illegally, they have broken the law. So why are they not in jail? Why have they not been arrested? Every time somebody mentions the term illegal migrant, we should automatically respond with, what crime have they committed? And if you're able to identify a crime, then please explain why these people have not been arrested. Maybe you can do a citizen's arrest yourself if you don't believe that the police are doing their job. No, actually don't do that, because people would actually do that. Once again, we're using the wrong... And this is supposed to be a polling company, not a member of Reform UK.
And you should go.
And James Johnson, that really is a breakthrough moment. And let's get that graphic back on the screen again. And it is incredible to point out, you're absolutely right, there is plurality in political parties and their voters. Look, the Liberal Democrats, 64%.
Now, if you ask people a question, do you think... So here, we'll do a poll. Do you think people who have broken the law should be put in jail? Yes. Do you think people who have entered the country and have broken the law should be deported? Yes. Most people would agree with that. But that doesn't mean that everyone is on the side of Reform UK. Look, the big problem with these polls is the polling companies themselves. And JPL was the one that was quoted here. And if we look at, JL Partners, you can see JL Partners under this league table, is a D+. It's not great, not terrible. Sorry, I'm in the way. Let me move it up a bit. Oh, it's not moving. Hold on. Should be able to see it now. Okay, a D+. So it's, as was in Chernobyl, not fantastic, not terrible. It's about the same as More in Common. The top ones are, of course, Survation, Ipsos, and YouGov. So I don't know if the guy who's here is actually... Let me go back to him. I don't know if he's somebody we should be really listening to. But then once again, it depends on who's paying for the polling, owned by the rich. It depends on who's issuing the... Because the ones who carry out the polling, okay, are they good or not? We can argue over that. But who's commissioning the poll? Who is spending money for these polls? And of course, the ones who are spending the money for the polls will form the question. And they'll want to get a particular result, of course, if they're investing in these polls. Unless it's a political party who truly want to know how people feel. So we have to take the idea that deportation is the priority amongst the British people with a pinch of salt, because I'm not fully buying into that. So I want to move on to another story here, a bit related to Nigel Farage and reform. So Politics Joe went to Liverpool and interviewed
the minimum wage
about let me make the screen a little bit bigger. Okay. They interviewed some Scousers about Nigel Farage and whether they would be on board with the idea of cuts to the minimum wage, for example.
So that the poor get poorer. Yeah, no thanks.
Am I allowed to swear? He's a massive
So does he want me to starve or like?
He doesn't care about poor people at all. Like, no one does these days. Like, literally nobody.
Do you think young people are paid too much in the UK?
No, I think they're paid too less.
Are you joking me? I have to work 2 jobs and to make ends meet? No. And they're decent pay, both of those.
I wouldn't know because I'm retired and I don't care anymore.
No, not enough. Pay
Why?
more. Because it's really hard to afford a house, afford to live, cost of living crisis, and we're just as trained as old people.
Do you know what? The minimum wage is quite low for my age. I think it's £9. So I guess it's up to debate because obviously young people are inexperienced, but at the same time I think a lot of them are hardworking.
They got a lower minimum.
I don't believe that the minimum wage should be based on experience. It should be based on the work. You know, if somebody's doing the work, they should get paid for the work they're doing. So I'm against the idea of it based on experience. What experience does Nigel Farage have of running a constituency? But he's paid £97,000 a year, or over £90,000 a year. So he's paid a lot of money, although he has no experience of running a constituency. So it should not be based on experience. Yes, going up the chain based on experience, but it should be based on the work, because the work is going to be, doesn't matter if you have experience or no experience, you're still going to be doing the same work.
Wage, like that's already being paid less. Like, someone needs a job, they need money. Like, why give them less just because they're like not 21? Like,
so Brad says Nigel Farage's Reform Party is an anagram for pale RC man frog grifter. Perfect. How did you come up with that? Mr. E, hopefully the colonial nations now recognize this pantomime that is Westminster is not behind you and does not have your back. We are better than this. Yes, 100% agreement, Mr. E. Thanks, Brad and Mr. E.
Like, it's still an adult.
The only good pay that I get is in my uni, and everywhere else it's like 10 quid an hour.
Yeah. And I think even if you do get a job, like they love to give you like 0 hour or 4 hour contracts. So it's like, let's say you do have a good paying job, you don't work enough to make it worth anything.
The reason we're asking is because Nigel Farage has come out today and said that he thinks young people are being paid too much. What do you react to that?
Well, I did like him until I heard that comment.
He's a massive...
You did like him until you heard that comment. I haven't seen, honestly, guys, I haven't seen this video before playing it to you guys, honestly. But I liked him before. Like, what did you think Nigel Farage stood for? See, this is part of the problem with Farage. Farage really relies on people not knowing who he is, in a sense. Oh, I like the guy because he talks a bit like me, or I like the guy because he dresses a bit like the guy down the pub. Or I like the guy because he says things that are a bit rough around the edges. But when you actually know what he stands for, then maybe you realize. So maybe we need to hear more about Nigel Farage and from Nigel Farage, unfortunately. Because the more people know about him, the less they like him.
Cunt. That's how I feel about that.
Yeah? Why?
Yeah. Well, I mean, many reasons. The racism is probably one.
I'm not racist or anything like that. Never have been, you know what I mean? Okay. Well, listen to what I'm saying. Up Tommy Robinson. I like what he's doing for the, well, to be honest with you, mate, the whole politics has gone to shit nowadays, yeah?
What did he say about Tommy Robinson?
For the, well, to be honest with you, mate, well, listen to what I'm saying. Up Tommy Robinson. I like...
sorry, I thought he said something else, Tommy Robinson, but he actually said up Tommy Robinson. What do you think Tommy Robinson is going to do for you? You know, I keep saying you need to vote for politicians who will actually care about you. Does anyone honestly believe that Nigel Farage cares about them? Does anyone honestly believe that Donald Trump cares about them? Donald Trump is hosting parties at Mar-a-Lago, which are reminiscent of the 1920s, the roaring 20s, right before the Wall Street crash, right before the Depression. And there are people in the United States who are having their food stamps removed by the federal government. At the same time, Donald Trump is hosting parties, expensive parties, of course paid for by the taxpayer. Nigel Farage, is he on the side of working class people? Of course not. Is Tommy Robinson? Tommy Robinson is always looking for money. And what does he do with that money? He spends it on holidays.
What he's doing for the, well, to be honest with you, mate, the whole politics has gone to shit nowadays, yeah? I mean, it's all one game. It's all one game, it's all politics, it's all one game. Let's get Tommy Robinson in it, yeah? Tommy Robinson, up Tommy Robinson.
And lowering minimum wage seems like an insane thing to do. Because like I've just said, we've got a cost of living crisis.
Lowering minimum wage is a race to the bottom. This is what Farage wants. This is what Reform UK supporters want. And when I talk about the supporters, I'm talking about the donors. The donors would love a situation where people are fighting over a quid an hour. Fighting each other for a quid an hour. That would be their utopia. Bringing back slavery would be probably their utopia, but they know that they're not going to be able to achieve that fully. So they'd be very much happy with the idea of people fighting each other in the street. Before, if you look at some of the images back in the 1920s, the late 1920s, during the Depression, people were turning up to do jobs and then turned away. And then they would go home to their families hungry without any pay. Then they turn up the next day looking for a job, and some may be taken on board, others will be rejected. And that was the way life was. Before there were unions, before there were any real protections for workers, before there were contracts, anything like that. You just turned up, hoped for the best, and then if you were hired, you got some pay. Maybe you received the pay, maybe you didn't. But if you didn't, well, there was nothing you could do about it. You could complain. And if you didn't get any pay or you didn't get offered a job, you go home and you'd beg in the street. That's the sort of world that Nigel Farage would love to return to, where businesses can hire and fire as they wish. They can pay people or not pay them as they wish, and to hell with the consequences.
We can't keep any savings. You have to wait for someone in your family to die to be able to afford anything, which is not really ideal. And just the lack of concern for the general public and only caring about himself while he's working 11 jobs alongside being an MP and making an insane amount of money.
Does he want me to starve or like...
What does he want to lower it to?
He hasn't said what to, but he said he would lower the minimum wage for young people in work.
Why though? If let's say you're at a job and there's a young person working as a team member and an older person, why should that person be paid more for the same job? Like that makes no sense.
I think younger people like have more energy as well than older people.
Yeah.
I don't think it makes
any sense. They have more willing.
Look, I'll try and play devil's advocate. People will say, well, the young person has less overheads, so the young person doesn't have to pay rent. Maybe they're living at home. Maybe they have... Okay, but you don't get paid based on your conditions. You're paid on the work you do. So she's right when she says, why should a young person be paid less than somebody else who's doing exactly the same job?
This to like pick up shifts and do kind of antisocial hours and night shifts and all this. I really don't think that's fair to be like, oh well, you're just discriminating people based on age. But if people did that to older people, then it's like, oh no, you can't lower their wage. That's unfair.
Well, he's coming from a position where he's loaded with cash himself, isn't he? So he doesn't care. And on what basis has he said that? What's his comparison with?
Well, lower the minimum wage so that the poor get poorer. Yeah, no thanks.
Do you think that's what it is? He's got it out for the poor people?
He doesn't care about poor people at all. Like, no one does these days. Like, literally nobody.
It's running away from a problem rather than towards a solution. So Farage, with what, 4 MPs has he got? How's he really going to change? And the fundamental problem with politics, to me, is the system. It's not the people, it's the system. To get into power and be...
Sorry. Just some random Brit says, do the jobs have the Epstein files?
Labour or whatever, you've had to pay or make so many alliances with people who have power and money that when you get there, you owe them favours and perhaps all your morality is compromised. And so to me, somewhere along the way, it's somebody who doesn't have that, but then you're pointing towards dictatorship, perhaps. You know, and we look at what we've got with Trump, and that's not the answer. So can you get a dictator who's a nice person and stays that way?
Yeah, I'm not a big reform person. It's not my opinion. It's not my, choice.
I think a lot of it is built on misinformation, and I think it's reform's basis is based on division and hate, and I think people will look at that. But I think once you actually start looking into reform policies and who they benefit, it's not the public and it's not the people. But I think because people are so in their ways about who they're blaming on, like immigrants and all this.
Exactly. Farage is able to tap into this anger people have, and he's able to direct that anger at immigrants, as he did in 2016. He said, look, all the problems that you have, they stem from the European Union. Immigration is a problem, it stems from EU membership. The NHS is underfunded, it stems from EU membership. All of these things stem from the EU. So the problem is the European Union. So if we leave the European Union, we'll be able to take back control and we'll be able to fix all our problems. And then that didn't work out, but of course Nigel Farage would not take responsibility for that. So anyone who thinks that if Nigel Farage becomes Prime Minister, that he's going to fix all their problems, well, he's not. He's going to find scapegoats, of course, and he's going to blame everyone else. He's not going to take responsibility. He admires Liz Truss. Liz Truss is the perfect example of somebody who will not take responsibility for their actions. He admired Boris Johnson, another one who could not take responsibility, would never take responsibility for his actions. So why do people think if Nigel Farage is in charge, this would be a question for any Reform UK supporter. If Nigel Farage fucks up, do you think he will take responsibility for that, or do you think he will blame someone else? Just let that marry. Don't answer it. This is a question you can ask if you have a friend, or if you know someone at work, or if you have a relative who wants to vote for reform. Just ask them this question. If Nigel Farage fucks up as Prime Minister, do you think he will take responsibility, or do you think he will blame someone else? And if they think he will take responsibility, ask them for an example of when he has fucked up and he has taken responsibility. Because they can't say he has never done it. Look at Brexit. Whose fault? Oh, it's not his fault. No, that he's not taken responsibility. He sold it, but he didn't take responsibility for it. He went to farmers, he went to the fishermen, he went to the fishing communities, he went to small business owners and told them that if they voted to leave, their lives would be better, there would be less bureaucracy. Did he own that? No, of course not. So why are you voting for somebody who you know is not going to be honest with you, who's not going to take responsibility for their mess ups? You know, I'm not an advocate for any sort of cult of personality, but at least Zach Polanski has owned what he did in the past when it came to, he said, look, I made mistakes in the past. I did things that were not right. I apologize for that. At least that's happening. And that's what you should expect from politicians. I have more respect for somebody, and we have this in society. We know that we have more respect for somebody who admits that they made a mistake and asks for some sort of, ask for forgiveness, than somebody who just sticks their head in the sand and says, no, nothing to do with me, mate, nothing to do with me, not my fault, somebody else's fault. Ask the audience.
It's like then they're going to vote not within their own interest because hate is too strong right now.
So as a young person yourself, you mentioned there that you don't align with reformist values, but a lot of young people do.
Yeah.
But they might not realise that things like these sort of policies are going on at the same time. I mean, do you think there's a problem around education with that?
I think so. I think a lot of it is, obviously you see on the news a lot of crime being committed by foreign people. However, you look at, they're the bad ones. A large majority of people who are in this country are here for good purposes. You've got doctors, engineers, a lot of them are. So I think it's unfair to discriminate everyone based on, a small amount of people committing a lot of bad things. It's difficult.
Is that why you think younger people are more looking towards reform, probably based on these sort of blatant racism?
I think a lot of it as well is, I don't know if you know about Nigel Farage's cameos that he did a while back. I think a lot of it's that, and it's more of like a popular type of thing. where...
And this guy is completely correct. Farage is really good at using the media. I keep mentioning this. When Parliament was in recess and politicians were on holiday, Nigel Farage was campaigning. He knew downtime, take advantage of that downtime. He was pumping out material. He was holding conferences, ridiculous conferences, but it was at a time when Parliament was in recess. So he understands when everyone is sleeping, he needs to be working. When everyone is walking, he's running. And he's been able to manipulate the media. He's able to use the media to his advantage. He goes on shows like Newsnight. He goes on shows like Question Time. In the past, he doesn't do it so much now. He doesn't have to. But in the past, he would use these shows to sell his wares. He would get on the show. The topic would be the NHS. And then he would use that as a springboard to, well, now we need to talk about immigration. Now we need to talk about leaving the European Union. So he would use whatever the topic was to sell his snake oil. He was brilliant. He is brilliant when it comes to manipulating the media and manipulating people. I have never criticized him for that. Criticized what he's been saying and what he's doing, but not the ability to manipulate the media. He's a master at it. And unfortunately, the other politicians, the other political parties are asleep at the wheel while he's there ranting and raving about immigration, about the asylum seekers, about them committing crimes, all of these things. It's like he's, I don't know, Google, Chrome, and the other political parties are Internet Explorer. Oh my God, it's been that long, so quick. Thank you, Max. Keep up the hard work. You do. Looking forward to seeing you your invite into politics. Oh, thank you so much, Alistair. Great to have you on for so long. You've been with the channel from the very beginning, basically. So great to have you on. Thanks so much, and thanks for that comment. It's brainwashing, Max, says Frederick.
I think back in the day, they used to get women to tell their husbands who to vote. It's a similar thing to that, where it's not based on the policies, it's based on the actual, popularity of the person.
We're seeing as well Reform gaining popularity with younger voters, while simultaneously Farage is saying things like he wants to lower the minimum wage. Why do you think young people are looking to reform?
Lack of representation in Labour and Tories, probably. It doesn't seem like there's any chance for young people. And I think a lot of what Reform say resonate with a lot of young people, unfortunately. And they see not having opportunities due to things like immigration. Whereas...
Yeah. Do you think it's dangerous? I mean, are you worried about sort of young people in politics now?
Yeah. I do think it's dangerous. And you can see it growing and growing.
And she's right. It's not about finding solutions. It's about finding scapegoats. The reason your life is shit is because of that guy over there. Not me, not the people who are paying me, not the people who run the country in the sense of the people who have all the money. No, it's the guy over there who has nothing. The guy who's on benefits. The guy who's just arrived on a small boat. The guy who's stuck in a hotel and can't get out because he's afraid to leave. Those people are the reason why you can't have good stuff. Don't look at Nigel Farage. Don't look at Reform UK. Don't look at the system. Don't look at the people who own the newspapers, own the media. Don't look at those people. Don't look up. Look down. And it's sad. It's depressing because we know this. We can see it day in, day out. Farage would say the problem is immigration. The poorest people in society, people who have literally nothing, are the greatest threat to you. Not the people who are hoarding huge amounts of cash, not the people who are hoarding huge amounts of wealth, which are driving ordinary people out of the housing market. Not the people who are exploiting you by paying you shit wages and lobbying government to make sure that whatever protections are in place are removed. They're not the problem. No, don't focus on them, who are actually making your life worse. No, focus on somebody you've never met, that you'll probably have no interaction with, and has zero impact on your life, but you should be angry with that individual. And unfortunately, it's a great sell. Andrew, thank you so much for that super chat. We add screen cleaner. Media, Sick Jokes, Wednesday, 10 p.m. And I need to send something to you about that. So it'd be great to catch up with you on that, Andrew. Thanks for that. Do check out the Screen Cleaner on YouTube. Thanks for that. David, once again, thanks so much for that super chat. David says, you can only exploit the media if they give you a platform. Well said. Yeah. Farage has put himself forward on so many occasions and said, look, I'm available to talk about whatever you want. And he has used that platform to talk about whatever he wants. And they allow it to happen. Like, how many times have you seen Zia Youssef on? Zia Youssef is not a councillor. He's not an MP. He hasn't been elected. But he spends more time on TV than the Green Party, than elected officials from the Green Party. How is that possible? Because it's about clicks and likes. It's about attracting eyeballs. And Reform UK are good at it. And they say controversial things, so they get brought back time after time. Totally depressed listening to this now. Apologies. Let's move on. So, is this good news or bad news? So the government are going to make changes to renters' rights. What is Labour's Renters' Rights Act, and will it end no-fault evictions? So I want to show you this interview with somebody about this.
That's a horrible job, that.
I'm afraid the landlord is quite insistent on the request of the rent increase. He's unfortunately asked us to serve you notice.
Natalie was evicted twice in a year and a half without being given a reason.
It doesn't mean anything that you've been there for 21 years or that you've been paying your rent fine and not defaulted on it.
She borrowed money from friends and clients to cover the cost of the first move. She hasn't managed to pay back that debt.
All I was doing was working, paying people off. I didn't have savings or anything like that, so I was stressing out.
Then, settled into a new flat, she was evicted again, just days after she asked her landlord to compromise on a rent increase.
How is anybody supposed to get anywhere without having a home, you know? It should just be like water and air. We all need that to function.
Isn't it interesting how Nigel Farage and people like him will say, everyone has the right to freedom of expression. Free speech must be protected. But access to a home, well, that's not so important. Which is more important to people? Having a roof over their head or being able to say what they wish? Look, I think both are important. Both should be protected. But you notice how when it comes to freedom of expression, Nigel Farage and others would claim to be guardians of that. But the idea of providing people with a roof over their head, well, that's the... We can't get the government getting involved in that.
Landlords can ask tenants to leave their property without giving a reason, under what's called a Section 21 notice. Figures from Shelter reveal that since the Conservative Party promised to ban them, almost 1 million private renters have been forced to move under these notices. That's over 500 renters every day. Labour insists they are committed to ending no-fault evictions. They say it could be done overnight.
We've got to get rid of Section 21 immediately. That's what Labour would do. We think they're selling out to vested interests in bringing these changes forward.
OK, then why aren't you doing it?
The Tories say Section 21s will be banned for new tenancies by the general election and for existing tenancies a year after that. What about raising the rent? They deny that landlords in their party are sabotaging progress.
Their argument is there are a lot of Tory MPs who are landlords. Is that not a conflict of interest?
Well, I would say there's a lot of Tory MPs who have an experience of how this system operates.
But that's an experience from a landlord's perspective, not from a renter's perspective.
Well, probably all of those landlords were also once tenants.
But while the Renters Reform Bill crawls through Parliament, it's all too often that charities like Shelter are left to pick up.
So is it going to be... So it seems that the government are going to get rid of it. It says here, reforms to renters' rights have finally become law 5 years after the first 4 prime ministers and after 4 prime ministers after they were first promised. The legislation that received royal assent on Monday, the 27th of October, is Labour's vision after the party took office with a promise to improve and complete the set of proposals the Tories pledged to water down, then abandoned altogether before the general election last year. So no-fault evictions are banned. Crucially, the legislation includes a blanket ban on no-fault evictions under Section 21 S21 of the 1988 Housing Act. Section 21 notices have allowed landlords to evict tenants with 2 months' notice without providing a reason. So it seems that this is now gone. And good. It should be illegal. It should have been illegal to kick people out in such a way. I don't see Section 21 in Northern Ireland. No, I don't think it exists in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is under, when it comes to housing, I believe is a devolved matter. So you don't have a situation like that in Northern Ireland, and it's much more complicated, of course, considering the troubles. A lot of private landlords in the EU provide 10 years tenancy. Internal rental, landlord, external responsibility. Yes, the situation in Europe, in European countries excluding Ireland, is very different. The protections in place for renters are much stronger than they are in Britain and Ireland. Northern Ireland is a weird place so much. No offense to people in Northern Ireland, but yeah, things are very different in Northern Ireland. So maybe there's a bit of good news there for renters. And of course, the 2-child benefit cap. Is this going to go? Well, according to this report, let's have a look. So Starmer hints 2-child benefit cap will be scrapped at budget. So Keir Starmer has strongly hinted that the 2-child benefit cap will be scrapped at the budget after the Chancellor did the same. As TV be getting rid of the cap, the Prime Minister told ITV, "We don't have to wait much longer, but I won't be telling you that we're going to drive down. But I won't be telling you that we're going to be driving down child poverty if it wasn't clear that we're taking a number of measures in order to do so." On Monday, Chancellor Rachel Reeves also signalled that she would lift the cap, which currently means families cannot claim child benefits for more than 2 of their first children. And this is it's not child benefit, it's child benefit in respect to universal credit. It's nothing. Child benefit is something different. This is in relation to universal credit. So it's a step in the right direction. Another U-turn that's a positive U-turn, it seems. Now, she can't come out and confirm it because it would be a breach of the parliamentary rules. She's supposed to issue these statements in Parliament. So when she delivers the budget, this would be probably part of it. But she is sort of hinting that, yes, it's going to go, and we're getting an idea that it's going to go. Increased taxes on the rich, that is, of course, the way to go. A wealth tax would be a great way to recoup some of the money. As I said, unemployment up. Yeah, so it's about convincing... they understand that poverty is not going to lift people out of poverty. More poverty is not going to lift people out of poverty. And if there's greater unemployment, then there's going to be more pressure on support for people, the most vulnerable in society. So David is right. This is connected to the unemployment figures. It's also a way to distract. Unemployment figures not good. Let's talk about getting rid of the 2-child benefit cap, which of course is positive. A UBI, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see much of a UBI anytime soon. What we're seeing when it comes to companies, a lot of companies are now relying more and more on AI. And unfortunately, we're starting to see what we could potentially see over the next number of years is massive layoffs, or at least a freeze on hiring, which will mean young people will not be able to enter the workplace. And then the government need to have some sort of backup plan, a UBI or something like that. At least a UBI in the short term, and then perhaps universal basic services in the long term, where the government provides you with everything you need. Some people would call that communism or socialism, but there needs to be some sort of support for ordinary people, because if there are no jobs for people to do, then they need still to live, and the government need to provide something, or some mechanism needs to be in place. Thanks, David. And David, once again, when did unemployment become joblessness? That's a very good question. I think maybe I called it joblessness in the title. Apologies for that. I should have called it unemployment. Because there are jobs available, but nobody is able to do these jobs because they don't have the skills, or they're not near these jobs. So there is a difference. There is a massive difference between unemployment and joblessness. There are jobs available, but the blame game. Well said. It's not our fault, it's your fault. It's not the government's fault, it's the people themselves. So we need to force people into these jobs, whether they can do them or not. Never trust AI unless you can bet your balls on what it's telling you. Squirt water and magnets on the AI data centers. Revenge. Thought reformers wanted people to breed more. Just some people then. Yes, it depends on a number of factors. It depends on how much money they have, and it depends on also the color of their skin, I think, when it comes to reformers. Universal child entitlement, element for more than 2 children. Scotland mitigates that. Yeah, Scotland is leading, and the government are following in Westminster. I'm an AI developer, and I'm really, and it's really hard to get a job. If you're having trouble getting a job as an AI developer, then it's not looking good for anyone else. Let me just put it that way. The Tories wanted higher unemployment. The Tories want a race to the bottom. So the Tories like reform, and because reform are the Tories 2.0. The Tories wanted a race to the bottom, so reform want a race to the bottom as well. So guys, I want to say thanks to everyone who came on tonight. Thank you so much for your super chats. Thanks to everyone who smashed the like button. Before we go, we have our one for the road, so I hope you enjoy this. Thanks to the... there was another thing I was going to say, but now I've forgotten. Apologies for that. Yes, I'll be on the post-stream chat after the show, and if I don't see you on that, I'll see you on Friday, same bad time, same bad channel. I don't know if I'll be able to do PMQs tomorrow. I'll keep you guys posted if I do, but hope you enjoyed this before we go.
Welcome to Broken News. BBC management has offered to provide unlimited ammunition to their opponents in a landmark deal struck today. The corporation's leadership team says the only way to keep critics quiet is to continue giving hilariously open goals to mouth-breathing Daily Mail readers that hate the BBC for reasons they can't put into a coherent sentence. Our reporter has more.
In a surprise move, bosses at the left or right-wing broadcaster say they will do everything they can to bolster the aims of the Defund the BBC campaign. The Director General, Tim Davie, who's now mishandled more scandals than the Catholic Church, says he remains the right man for the job because of his ability to keep the organisation mired in controversy. Other senior management figures have reiterated their determination to fuck it all up, despite being in charge of one of the few British institutions we can all be proud of, and the last bastion that separates us from batshit American-style cable news. In a statement, the corporation's leadership team says creativity is at the heart of everything we do, as is shooting ourselves repeatedly in the foot and treating our employees really, really badly. Back to you.
What a lovely story. That's all from Broken News. You're up to date.
Right on the nose, as always. So guys, have a great week. I'll see you on Friday, same bad time, same bad channel. For the others, I'll see you on the post-stream chat after the show. Stay safe, take care, and good night.